welcome to another episode of the Legal Mastermind podcast. Today I have with me Vera Zambrano. She is the lead attorney at the law firm Vera Zambrano and Associates. Vera, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Eric.
Absolutely. So as we discussed before we got started here, you're physically in Florida right now, but you do international law. So can you kind of give us a background on you, how you got started and picked this practice area?
Yes, absolutely. So I started my first company when I was 28 in Germany, my first law firm, and expanded it 2.5 years later to the United States of America. So it was an international law firm. It still is. We are legally representing and consulting clients from around the world in private law, in criminal law, in a lot of business law cases, in family law, and also in music and copyright law.
So what were some of the initial challenges that you didn't think of when you went from operating just in Germany to doing international work?
Yes, so you have to, know where you're going before you want to go there, right? You have to set up a plan, set up your roadmap, if you want to call it like that, and then you have to take the steps accordingly. So you need to know where you want to practice, what you want to practice, right? And also the audience, the clients you want to address.
And when you're talking about the audience specifically, because you named several practice areas there, where do most of your clients come from? And what I mean would be like practice area specific and even location wise.
Yes, so when it comes to the different areas of law, it's pretty equal, right? We have a lot of family law cases, international criminal law. We have a lot of music and corporation. We have also copyright cases, right? So it's not really the majority of cases that are in a specific area of law. So when it comes to the clients, most of the clients are located in the United States, right? But we also have clients that are anywhere in the world. So it does not really matter where the client is located or residing. It's more about where's the jurisdiction of the specific case.
Yeah, so for the music side of things, it makes perfect sense. But the one practice area you mentioned was criminal defense. So are most of these clients stateside, and by stateside meaning Florida, or are you getting people from all over the country or even all over the world that need your services?
So I get all the inquiries that international clients anywhere in the world need legal representation or consultation between the US and Europe, or in specifics between the US and Germany. So these are the clients that, they have an ongoing case in another country, right? They have to come back for that, or they need an attorney that can represent them in person if they cannot come back, right? We have deportation cases where you have a United citizen, that needs to come back to Europe or to Germany for a specific case. And we try to defend this person as best as possible, right? So there are a lot of different cases actually that we can cover, right? It always is, is there a context between the US and Europe or not? That's always a question.
Right. Now, so with building up this law firm with these various practice areas and literally being an international law firm, how are you getting your name out there? How are you getting people to know about you? Was this a lot of networking? Was there specific marketing that you found to be successful for yourself, or what advice would you give?
So the first advice I would give to legal professionals who want to start their own practice, right, is to actually look at where you want to go to, right? What is your audience? Who do you want to address? What is your passion? What are you passionate about? And then look at what is the best channel to get it out, right? So my recommendation is to build as many legal articles and blogs as you can, right? I have over like 300 legal blogs, free to read for anyone, right? You don't have to pay anything for it. And it's a lot of advertisement and you share your knowledge with people. So that I would say that is the best like advertisement, right? To write about the things that you're passionate about. And then people will pick it up. It will, appear in Google, and you can relink this to your website. So I would say, post as many articles as you can as a professional, and yeah, talk about what you're interested in.
That's great advice. Something, on the marketing side of what we do, we always tell people, show off their expertise, posting blogs, articles. So what would your advice be? Meaning the first blog that you posted, you probably didn't get any hits on, and maybe even the second and the 10th. How would you give people or what expectations would you set for people? Would you say you've just got to keep going for months to realize some type of benefit from it, or what would you say?
Yes, exactly. So you cannot and you shouldn't expect, increase immediately from one article that you're writing, right? So you should just not see it as, I have to get at least 10 clients with this article. You have to just put it out there, right? Like, blog about something or write an article about something that you are most passionate about, right? And people who will read it, they will see and they will feel that you're an expert in this, or you really know what's going on, right? So I just posted a lot of articles, right? Like 3, 4, 5 years ago, just a lot of articles, and I never stopped, right? I just always kept going, and all my clients actually that are inquiring and they're addressing the law firm and contacting us, I never had them before, right? So it's not like someone that knew someone, or it's not a family member of someone that I represented before. So they're all anywhere in the world, but they see those blogs, right? They see those blogs. It's also recommended to put them in different languages. So most of them are in English, Spanish, and German, for example. So most people speak either English or Spanish, right?
Right.
So that's also something that you should consider. Like, are you able to, to communicate with people in different languages? Is your office staff, trained to speak different languages? Then you should also, I highly encourage you to have different languages in your posts also, because the more languages you post, the more people you can reach.
And would you just suggest somebody simply use a Google Translate, or would you want them to get a professional who is bilingual in Spanish and bilingual in German to translate those?
Yes, I would highly recommend to have someone, to at least check it, right? If you use any sort of, translation system or AI even, you should have someone check it, right? If that's really what you want to say, because you don't want to put out there something that is wrong information, right? Or false information, and attract someone based on the article, right? So you should be very careful, like if that's the correct language and that's the correct wording, and then post it in as many languages as you want to, or as you have, availability, right? So, and also the websites that you're building, they should be at least in 2, 3 languages, right? So, always centered, who do you want to address? And in which country are you located, right? So you just reach a lot of more people if you put at least Spanish in English, and it's also, yeah, you never have to stop, right? You can always develop, put another language to it, have someone in your office that is only managing this side, the social media side and the marketing side. So, to not have to do it yourself, of course. So that's what we do. We have, one employee for every single position, right? Everyone does something else, and there's not an overlap or something, right? There's not someone who's supervising the other person. So everyone is like highly focused on what they're doing. And I think if you have like a certain person in your office, in your team, that is really passionate about what they do, it will all come back naturally, right? But don't expect something to happen in the first 3 months because of your articles. You will get maybe a lot of inquiries that are not as interesting to you, and you don't want to serve them because you're not knowledgeable in those areas, right? But you can still refer them to colleagues, right? It's not that you have to let them go. You can still, refer them and have some sort of agreement with another attorney. But you should definitely focus the audience you want to target, and then specifically write about those topics.
Now, did you do anything to prime the pump? So you write your first blog and then you write your second. Did you do anything to get those blogs in front of specific people, or did you just let the algorithms, Google and Yahoo, suck up that information and then hopefully you ranked for a couple of terms?
So what I did in the beginning, or like my staff did in the beginning, right? The people who were already doing those social media posts and those marketing posts, they were publishing it on different legal websites. So attorneys' websites, or when people look for attorneys, right? There are certain websites to post it anywhere where people might go to, to find an attorney or to look for an attorney, right? Also, Google picks up, a lot of keywords. So the more you write, the more specific you write in your blogs, the better it is for Google, because Google picks it up and someone might type in international divorce case, Germany, Florida, or something like that, and it comes up, right, in the first page already. So it takes definitely some time if you want to grow it naturally. It takes some time for Google and Yahoo to pick it up, but it's definitely worth it. You just have to keep going.
Yes, as I said before, I think that's great advice. Writing on your expertise, especially if you have a niche. Writing a blog about car accidents today is probably not going to get you very far because there's a million attorneys out there that are writing about that. But if you have a niche within personal injury or within family law or immigration, I think that advice is spectacular because it's really only your time. And if you're passionate about it, you're going to write great content. What advice would you give for somebody outside of that? Were there any other things that you found marketing or networking or groups that you belong to that really helped to get your name out there to beef up one part of your practice or another?
Yes, so marketing is always very important, right? Besides being, a professional in your job, no one is born as an entrepreneur, right? So you have to start, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in this specific area. So that means you have to go out there, right? You have to network. And also what I'm a fan of to be of different associations, right? In Germany and also in the US, just to be there, just to be present, right? That doesn't mean that you have to be like intensely involved, right, in these groups, but you have to be at least a member to be, part of those groups. That can also bring you high quality clients in those areas. Yes.
And how do you manage not only your time but these different practice areas? I'd have to believe that a music industry client is way different than a criminal defense client that you're working with, and it sounds like you might be working in lots of different time zones. So how do you manage those all those different factors in running your firm?
Yeah, so what I have to say, like I'm a perfectionist. So I only do it like either way. I do it like completely 100% or I'm not doing it, right? So what I found out is you have to have, people that are the same, that are aligning with your values, right? They are the same kind of personalities and also want the same, out of their job. So what I have different attorneys I'm working with, right? In Germany, but also here in the US, that are, specialized in certain fields, and they only do those kind of cases, right? So, giving them the cases they want to actually work on is also taking away from my plate. Of course, I'm checking with everyone, right? If there are any problems, but it's very important to have for each position to have someone who is fully dedicated, right? That's super important because you cannot be everywhere and you cannot supervise everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've had a lot of people on this podcast, and one of the best pieces of advice they give is in hiring. You really
Yes.
need to take your time and hire somebody, whether it fits with, you said you're a perfectionist and probably the culture of your firm. Um, Anybody who's outside of that, will slow down that process or not provide as good of a
Yes.
service. So when you were growing the firm, and it sounds like you've really grown a successful firm, were there any technologies, and a lot of this could have changed a lot in the past 18 months, but was there anything that you found that were good tools to help you grow as, when you were a smaller firm to help you become a much bigger firm?
Yes, so technology-wise, I would say you have to have a system in place, right? That your staff can access anytime. So because of the, time difference between Germany and here, East Coast is 6 hours. It's not that bad, right? On the West Coast, it's 9 hours. So when, when they're in the office or when they're working, you cannot really reach someone in Europe anymore, right? So that's, you have to take into a consideration that you always, have to make the best use of your time. So we have like a 24/7, access to the systems. That means someone can work if they prefer to, right? On the weekends, right? To get something done. If they are not able to do this during the week, you still have time, and no one is like supervising your hours when you're working. So the system is that like an electronic system that everyone can log in, everyone from the firm can log in and sees who is working on the case last time, right? And also uploading everything we get from the clients and from the ports, right? We upload everything into those folders so nothing gets missed or lost.
And I know this may be a hard question for you to answer, but with all the different practice areas, do you have a favorite one? Is there one that you really enjoy, or are you more of a variety person that really enjoys all the different practice areas?
I would say honestly, I enjoy the variety because it's like a very specific decision, right? I did not want to become an attorney and a company owner to only do one thing, right? And to only go after, one certain area. I wanted to have the variety because I think that's challenging me more, right? Because every case is so different. It has such a different background. The parties are from different countries. The scenarios are different, right? The consequences might be different. So it's exciting to have the variety. But if I have to choose, I would say everything that has the international context between the US and Germany, for sure.
And since you've been a well-established law firm for a while, you probably have a long list of clients. Do you do anything to leverage that network of clients? Meaning, is there any constant outreach that you do, touch points for people that might not ever be a client again, but might refer you somebody in the future?
Yes, so what we do is when a case has been completed, we ask if there are anything, any further concerns or any further questions. We reach out to the clients once in a while. We have like newly established a newsletter, right? Twice a year now. So it's not that, you get the newsletter all the time. It's just like once in a while you get a little, information. And usually they reach out back automatically, right? When they were happy with it, when everything went well, they refer us, but also they come back. So they can also leave us a review. It's not that you have to, right? Because obviously you don't have to do anything, but you can if you're happy with it. But usually when they're happy, they're coming back automatically.
Yeah, and I would assume that there's a lot of attorneys, maybe locally in your area, who might have someone referred to them. They have an issue that has to do with Germany, and they go, "Oh, wow, that's over my head. I need
Yes.
to find somebody for that." Is that a common way for people to find you, where let's just say either a criminal defense attorney or somebody who has a family issue, it involves Germany, that find you? Or are they Googling you, or are these people that you reach out to create relationships beforehand so that they know that you're there and available?
Yes, these are both cases. So a lot of the clients, they really Google our firm and they say, that's exactly what I need. They read through some articles, some blogs, and they say, I have the same problem. Like I have the exact same problem, right? My kids are just a different age, but I have the exact same problem relocating between the United States and Germany, for example, or a big divorce case and they are not in Europe anymore and they don't want to come back, right? Because they established a new life in the US. So we have all kind of different clients. The first-time clients that only know us from online, right? And they set up first consultation, or also clients that were referred to by others, or they were referred to by a former client, for example.
Yeah, so would you be able to break down kind of the percentage? And the reason I ask is, I think no matter who I talk to, who's an attorney and what practice area, they always say my best cases come from referrals or, from past clients. So do you kind of know off the top of your head where most of your business is coming from? Is it outbound? Is it you actively marketing, or is it all the different channels that you've built up over the years?
I would say all the different channels. So most of them come from the website, from Google, right? They just Google it. A lot of like a big percentage is from the articles, because you can see where they're coming from when they're sending you a request. They read the article, and then they say, I have a similar problem, or can I talk to you about this, this article. So I would say the highest percentage right now is definitely new clients, completely new clients. And only like a smaller percentage are like, second, like clients that come for a second time or third time, and referrals. So the big majority is, because it's so broad, it's definitely new clients that have no relationship in the first place. Mhm.
So I want that to sink in with the audience, because correct me if I'm wrong, Vera, but what you just said is the time that you put into these articles, which even if you're billing out at $1,000 an hour, let's say that one of those articles took you 2 hours to do, that's $2,000 of your time. That is your number one way that you get new clients, because you took the time to write something that you're passionate about, that you have a lot of knowledge in, and that one article may have brought in one client or 20 clients, but it's an evergreen source of marketing for you. So I'll let that sink in with the audience, because writing content for content's sake, I would never say to do, but it sounds like you're writing some really detailed articles. Can you think of off the top of your head, maybe a couple of the articles you're, just to give some ideas out there, some that you've written that really rank well or really drive in a lot of clients for you?
Yes, so we talked about a lot of different areas. So a lot of the articles are international family law. So relocation of minor kids, right? Underage kids between countries. When is that possible? Is that legal? When is it legal, right? What do you have to do to actually leave a country or to move on, right? When you have like when you don't have the sole custody, right? So we have a lot of the articles are very specific in general, not very broad, not about like how to file a divorce or something, right? So very specific, and always the international context. So the client, the future client, can see, okay, this is very specific. And we don't take actual cases, of course, right? You shouldn't take actual cases. I mean, you could when you don't address the names and the locations, you could, right? So no one is identified, but you should always think about a very specific scenario, because that also allows you to create more articles, right? When you're super broad, when you only have an article about personal injury, trip and fall, or slip and fall, that's too broad, right? People will say, okay, I heard that 100 times before already. No, there's no new information in this article. But when you write about, okay, what happens if you if you trip and fall from a stairs, from a stairs in a hotel, right? In a hotel where you were a guest or where you're not a guest, right? And those specifics, are they liable? Who is liable? What happens if you haven't if you didn't wear shoes, like appropriate shoes? Like, are they still liable? Are you liable as well? Like, you have to be more specific, right? So people might up ending, okay, that's similar to mine, or it's not super similar to mine, but she has been very specific in what she's telling me, right? Because everything else is already out there on Google. So you will not get ranked high when you are too, when you leave it too common and too general.
Yeah, you're doing my job now. That's what I love that advice. You know, the niches or niches
Mhm.
on the internet. Number one, it's going to be easier for you to rank because everybody's got a car accident page or a slip and
Mhm.
fall page. So if you can get hyper detailed, you're not going to drive thousands of visitors to that page a month,
Mhm.
but the visitors that you do get to that page are going to be very, very qualified. And they're going to see a niche article on what happened to them that you've already done. You know, so like you said, if it's, and it's funny, the example that you gave about, you know, slipping or tripping at a hotel. I work with an attorney in Los Angeles. He's a personal injury attorney, and it is crushingly competitive there. So instead of trying to just optimize for car accidents, we picked apartment complex injuries. So what do you have in apartments? You've got faulty railings, you've got stairs that aren't maintained, you've got, cracks in the sidewalls, ceiling collapse, balconies that are faulty. There are so many niches to write about just in that one category of personal injury. And the rankings that he got very quickly compared to trying to rank him for car accident attorney lawyer was mind-blowing. So even if he got to page 3 for car accident, no one would ever call. But when you're number 1 for something very specific, now you're going to generate some calls.
Exactly. Because the more specific you are, the more people also see it. Oh, okay, she actually knows what she's talking about. Because if you keep it too general, people think that might be copy paste somewhere. Even, of course, attorneys wouldn't do that because you know that's illegal, right? But like the listeners, or also the person who reads the articles, they want to know more about it. And did this attorney already have those kind of cases? And when you're specific, that indicates that you know those kind of cases, right? And every case is specific. There is not one case in the world that is a general case. So because your case might be a trip and fall, but it's very different from your best friend's, right? Because there are certain, the location is different, the circumstances are different, what you're wearing is different, right? It might have an impact. Then also the location itself is very different. And if it's a public space or not, right? Maybe it's, not a public space, it's a private area. That's also different for the outcome. Do you have an insurance in place on the other side or not, right? Also very important. So all these things matter when you want to actually proceed and say, okay, I need to take legal action.
Yeah, again, all great advice. If you use the most common personal injury, car accident, and you have a car accident page, but you were T-boned in an intersection and both you and the passenger were hurt, and you suffered, a spine injury and a pelvic fracture, and all that is mentioned, they go, oh my God, this attorney handled exactly what I have, as opposed to just car accident lawyer. So Vera, I appreciate your time today. We've jumped all over from music to criminal defense to personal injury. And I think the big takeaway here for any attorney who's got time to write articles and maybe not the largest marketing budget, writing specific articles, to me, was probably the biggest takeaway. But is there anything that you feel like we left out before we close out today?
No, I would just like to, encourage anyone to pick and choose wisely, right? Because if you have a bad team, or if you have a team that is not fully dedicated, motivated, you need to change that, right? Because as you said, the weakest member in the group will always put down the quality, right? And you cannot, if you have a bad front office manager, right, that is not picking up the calls, not calling back, right, missing the leads, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's a big problem, right? Or you have someone that is like not really motivated to work in the case, right? So instead of keeping that person on the team, you have to let the person go, because the person is just not a right fit for you. It might be a right fit for someone else, right? So it's super important, because you can be amazing, your quality can be amazing, but if your team does not put it out there, right? That's your reputation. So it's very important to choose wisely. And also, like, one of my biggest mistakes were just I hired people that I thought had a great personality, but they were not really dedicated to the job, or not as much as I would want them to, right? So you need to immediately find people that are aligned with the values of the company, and also go after the same thing that you want, right?
Well, that's great advice to close on, Vera. Thanks again for your time today, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.